Welcome to the Baroque Overview. The Baroque era begins in the year 1600 with the birth of opera and lasts until 1750 with the death of J.S. Bach. But lucky us, Bach is still alive and working in a key factory. To be specific, he's working in the Venice Key Factory. Italy was one of the wealthiest places in the world by the 17th century, and Venice was the port where many of the goods from all over the world came to Europe. Italy is also where opera was created, so this country is where it all starts. We've made this a key factory because one of the most important developments during this time was the turn away from old scales of the past and the slow adoption of what would become the tonal system. Major and minor keys, the foundation of the modern musical language, found their shape during this time. We see these keys shown literally as keys in the factory. The workers at our key factory are some of the most prominent Baroque composers, and they are making new keys that will go to different locations. The relationship between a country and its music was referred to as a national style, and we see these three represented by the shipping crates labeled with the flags of the nations of Italy, France, and Germany. The Italian style was associated with song-like melodic lines and dazzling virtuosity. Here we have Antonio Vivaldi, with a V on his name tag and with red hair, the reason why he was called the Red Priest. Vivaldi worked at an orphanage where he composed music for an all-female orchestra. Many of the concerti and sonatas were specifically written for members of this group, and both the music and the fantastic performances made the place famous. Vivaldi also provided a number of successful operas for Venice opera houses. The French style was more associated with dance, and it was heavily ornamented with a light touch. The German style, by contrast, was more associated with thicker textures, contrapuntal writing, and interlocking lines. It was much heavier and sounded complex. Associated with this German style is J.S. Bach, shown here at the German box with a cross around his neck and a B badge. Bach was a devout Lutheran, and even though he also composed music outside the church, he believed the act of composing was for the glory of God. Bach worked at a number of locations, providing him the chance to write for virtually every type of instrument and ensemble, with the notable exception of opera. He was a gifted violinist, but the instrument he was most associated with was the organ, for which he wrote a variety of works. One form he used extensively is the fugue, which he placed in vocal and instrumental pieces. The manager here is George Frederick Handel, who isn't next to any national box because of his complicated life path. He has an H badge. Handel was born in Germany, and although he learned music from a young age, his parents wanted him to be a lawyer. His devotion to music, though, was overwhelming, so much so that he snuck a harpsichord into his attic to practice in secret. As a young man, he decided he wanted to compose opera, so he went to Italy to learn the style. As luck would have it, the patron he eventually worked for became King of England, and so Handel moved to London, where he lived the rest of his life. Lots of new instruments were invented during the Baroque era. A new keyboard instrument, the harpsichord, became popular during this time, and we depict this as the bulletin board of the factory, complete with a raven feather and keys. The raven's feather is here because ravens' talons were often used as the plectrums inside the instrument to pluck the strings. This was the most popular type of keyboard until the piano was invented. Thanks for joining us at the Key Factory.